Hello, my name is Jamel Brown, and I'm the head speech and debate coach at Sumner Academy of Arts and Science in Kansas City, Kansas. I want to thank NIETOC for asking me to put this video together for all of you. I am going to talk to you about one of my favorite events, of course, dramatic interpretation. These are my personal tips and tricks. I am by no means the full expert on this event. This is what works for me and my team, and adapt, take, steal, whatever you need, borrow, because that's what I've done over the years, any of this information and make it relevant to you and your team. So when I'm introducing students to this event, DI, the first thing I want them to know is what makes DI kind of unique from any other event. What makes DI different from another Interp event or even another speaking event? Well, number one, DI is all about being a storyteller. You have this awesome opportunity to tell a story, and it's someone else's story. So that takes a lot of careful planning, determination, because by golly, I don't want to mess up telling this very important story. Another thing that really makes DI special is action. In other words, I get to be a full actor, actress, and I use blocking and movement and facial expressions to really interpret how I want you to see my piece. And finally, awesome thing about DI is my favorite, characterization. You get to fully become this person or these people while telling their story and using all kinds of different forms of action or movement and blocking in order to make this story come alive. So I'm going to give you some of my tips, and I promise when I get to tip number 4, which happens to deal with characterization, that's where I'm going to focus on the most, because that to me is kind of my specialty, is characterization. So tip number 1, first and foremost, you need to make sure your students are picking the right event. So we need to first make sure DI, since that's what I'm focusing on today, is the event for that student. Couple of different ideas and things I've done in the past and things that have worked is, first of all, kind of surveying your students, especially the novices that you may not know, allowing them to take a brief little survey. Tell me about yourself. Are you the class clown? Are you the real studious, very focused individual in class? What's your personality like? What are your personality traits from previous personality tests you've taken? But just kind of this basic student survey to make sure they're picking the correct event. Also, along with that student survey is a more one-on-one student interview. And again, this is your opportunity to really get to know your students. And this interview is something you can do all 4, because hopefully, of course, we want students to start as freshmen and end as seniors, but whatever point you get that student, doing a one-on-one interview. And of course, you don't want to overwhelm them and say, hey, tell me all about your life and tell me all your personal everything. Absolutely not. This is more so, what are your future goals? What are your dreams? What are your goals for this class, forensics? What do you want to accomplish? What do you already know? It's just kind of a one-on-one opportunity for you to really hone in on your students' prospects, what they want to gain from being in forensics, and to ensuring that DI, if that's the event that they're picking, is the proper and right choice. Also, a lot of people falsely believe that you should only do brainstorming for your speaking events. So if I'm doing oration and I'm trying to figure out what my topic is going to be, a brainstorming session is, yes, critical. But you should also do brainstorming sessions for your interpers and for your Interp events. And I could brainstorm maybe different topics I would like to see covered, or types of characters I would want to play. And then it may make that next step, number 2, finding the actual piece of literature, a little less challenging. So tip number 2, we've got to select the right piece. This is and can be kind of the most difficult part of this whole process, is putting the right script, the right book, the right material in the hands of your DI folks. First and foremost, you need to know what your team norms are for piece selection. So personally on our team, there's a couple of no-nos. Number one, if someone from our team did that piece recently, and recently for me is 5 to 10 years ago, depending on that student's success. But if that piece was already touched, performed, done by someone on our team, it definitely needs to rest. Also, if it's a final round NSDA national piece, absolutely not. We're gonna leave it out there, because you're gonna be compared. Even if you don't realize that this was a big piece on the final stage, judges, other competitors will probably figure that out. And so we want to let those pieces rest. Also, one thing to keep in mind is I've been, for example, in this same position for literally almost, not quite, but almost 20 years. So I've gone through 20 years worth of students picking a variety of different pieces. I may have a student who did piece A 15 years ago, and it was phenomenal. They rocked it. They were on top of it. They had a lot of success with that piece. And then here it is now, I have another student looking at that exact same book and they want to cut from it. For that new student, that piece is new and fresh for them. And so it's okay sometimes to let students explore literature that they want to explore, even if it may be a piece that is done often or something that you've seen as a judge or something you've coached before. If it's a whole different fresh cutting, I think that's okay, because it is a new fresh cutting and piece for this student, even though it may not be something new and fresh for me or for their judges. Every summer, minus last summer, because of we already know what happened last summer, the world changed. But I have had the opportunity to teach a camp, and one of the folks that I get to teach that camp with is amazing, and I love her to death, Kim Linger from Liberty North High School. I am stealing all of this next section directly from Miss Linger. The whole idea of making sure our students fall in love with literature is also a part of becoming and being a forensics coach. We want students to touch material as much as possible. Now, I'm not an English teacher. I don't teach English. I teach speech, debate, theater, forensics. And so I appreciate this, because I feel like sometimes students are doing a lot of reading, but maybe not reading that they want to do. And they're so busy with schoolwork and everything else, they don't have a chance to just read for relaxation. So we give them that opportunity, or we can and we should, in our forensics classrooms. So doing an activity and literally putting text in front of students and giving them a few minutes to just touch a book and read a little section can do wonders. In our new incredibly virtual world, it's the same deal. We can still give them those opportunities to read lots of clips and samples from books. Amazon is perfect, because Amazon gives us a nice little synopsis of a bunch of books. And if you don't physically have paper copies of books, we can't physically possibly go to the library because we're virtual, I can still do the same assignment and have students go in and read little synopsis or little, clips from different books. Touching a book will get lots of ideas rolling on what kind of material or what they want. I personally love having students cut their DIs from full-length novels, but of course, they can also come from play scripts. There are also, of course, lots and lots of companies out there with already pre-cut, pre-created DIs. All of that works, but giving students the opportunity to touch, read, explore literature, that's a plus. And finally, on this tip number 2 on selecting the right piece, what if you had your students do a little activity? An activity that asked them, if you were the playwright, if you were the author, what would your DI look like? And again, that can give them some ideas on direction to go in. If I could write my own DI, I would want it to be about blank. So now that's given me a theme or a subject matter that I want to look through material to find and to hopefully score the right text to work on cutting my DI. Tip number 3, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because this alone could be a 45-minute workshop, but cutting the script. There are so many ways to cut. I am personally a fan of first, read the text, then take sticky notes, ripped up pieces of paper, whatever you got to do to mark the pages that like wowed you or that interest you. And then you've got to teach students, yes, this basic dramatic structure so that they understand I've got to start with that exposition. And then what is that inciting incident that I want to focus in on? Because my ultimate goal is to build up to that climactic moment. And that's my most dramatic moment. Not necessarily when I'm screaming the loudest, but that is that moment that the character or characters is at that big turning point. They're at their peak. And then teaching students how then to have the right cutting that's going to allow them to have that falling action and then that denouement. We've got to have some kind of closure at the end. We have to have some type of conclusion that wraps it all together for us. I have included in this PowerPoint a link to another slideshow that's about strictly how do you teach students the dramatic structure. I did not come up with that PowerPoint. I borrowed that from someone else. And so anything that I say, anything that I share, again, it has not necessarily been something that I completely created. By no means. Take, use, that's what we do in education to help each other out. Also, when dealing with this whole cutting process, this is a great opportunity to really teach students about the need for levity, lightness. We have all seen the DI that never stops giving, and not necessarily in a positive way, but that DI that seems like, oh my gosh, I am so sad, so depressed, I can't. I need this DI to end because I feel like there's no hope at all for this character. And I can't handle it. Levity is good. I personally like to see levity, especially at the beginning of the DI. That teaser, in my opinion, is a great opportunity to highlight the lightness that's going on. We are all three-dimensional people walking around in this space we call the world and Earth, right? So we want our characters to be three-dimensional and not just flat, people that happen to be on a page of a text. We want our characters to come alive. And so when cutting, teach students and encourage students to have those light moments, those moments of levity, that moment when I can smile. I think it's great when I can smile and even maybe laugh a little bit in a DI. That is okay. And I think it's important. That's just my little take. So that's tip number 3, cutting the script. And finally, my biggest focus for this workshop is going to be about character development. Once you have the script, once you have the script memorized, once you have already started figuring out some blocking, there should never be a stale moment with a piece and you're like, I got this, I'm done, I'm ready for nationals. Now, are you? What can you really honestly tell me about this character that you are performing as each time you get up and do that DI? So this is that opportunity for students to really dig deep into who am I and what is my purpose and what am I doing? We ask our students in this world of competitive speech to take real kind of adult issues sometimes. And here, the 16-year-old has this script about a woman going through a divorce, and she now is going to turn into a single mom, and she's trying to figure out how she's going to pay her bills, and everything is coming down upon her so quickly. Well, that's what we would consider definitely an adult issue. And now we've asked a 16-year-old to tackle that character without any type of character analysis or any type of digging into who this person is. That student is probably not going to get into the depth that we would really like them to get into to make their performance really sparkle. So I'm going to share with you a couple of things I do with my students to really help with character development. And then I'm also going to share some examples with you of some real activities going on in my classroom. So here is my list of famous folks that I'm kind of a fan of. This is called Face Power. I also teach theater, so I also do this with some of my theater classes. And it doesn't have to be famous people. I just like using famous people because they're people we recognize. It could be random folks. You can get pictures randomly from Google Images. You can have students bring in their own like physical, real pictures from family members. But the whole point is our face can tell a lot. And learning how our mannerisms, our facial expressions, how we even like turn up our nose when we're trying to figure something out, these are the different things your student needs to learn how to do to become that character. What mannerisms, what facial expressions does my character have? You just simply put a bunch up here and let students tell the story of what's happening. Now, here we have Will Smith. He looks like he's really in the moment, telling something that's like this, what kind of moment? And so what's the story behind that facial expression? Here we have Queen Latifah looking like, oh, like something just kind of shocked her a little bit. Oh, I wasn't expecting to hear that. Tell us the story behind that facial expression. And then once they're able to do it by looking at other like real folks or fake folks or people that they know do that, now as your character, I want you to do the same thing. I want you to emphasize your facial expressions, your mannerisms, how you blink your eyelashes, how you turn your head, how you stand, all of those different things as your character. All right. The character hot seat. One of my favorites. A project that I have all of my forensicators do every single year is a big character analysis project. Now, for my Interpers, my DI kids, they're focusing on their character development. A lot of that also involves thinking and focusing in on the subject matter or the theme that is also surrounding your DI. So there's a lot of different potential and a lot of different ideas that you, as especially those who are new coaches, can kind of develop your own style on how you want your students to do a similar project. You may tell them, hey, you're going to do X, Y, and Z for your character analysis project, or you can give them a variety of different options. But the point is, you are digging deeper into who this person is, or these people if they're playing multiple characters in their DI. Also, you're peeling back the layers of the onion to tell me even more about the subject matter. What we get in your 10-minute performance is a 10-minute like picture, frame, snapshot of this person. But there's so much we don't get to see that happens before that DI, and that may, if of course the DI doesn't end with them passing away, but what will happen to that individual or that character after the DI. Character analysis project allows students to really hone in on this person as a full three-dimensional real individual. So here's some examples, different things they can do, and you can have them do multiple things and pick from a lot of different options. Think about a movie clip. Now, if your text is based upon an actual movie, or if the novel that you're using then turned into a movie, stay away from that. Too easy. I want you to find a movie clip, a TV show, something that is going to show us a little comparison contrast to either A, what kind of character you're playing, or B, what the situation is that your character is involved in. Dress like your character. Pre-COVID, this was a fun thing. Now, but coming to school all day dressed like your character. For some students, they might not feel like a big deal because maybe they're just, an everyday person. But if something about what their character would wear stands out, is unique, very different from what they would choose to wear, this is a great idea. This also forces them throughout the day to think how their character possibly would think. And of course, in our world of competitive speech and debate, kids are suited up and they're never in costume. So this is also a fun way for them to explore how their character would dress. And once you're dressed like that character, you're gonna naturally walk like that character, talk like that character. And if you can spend the whole day at school that way, that's fun. Also, create a virtual or an actual paper scrapbook for your character. We want to know what they looked like at birth. We want to know about their family, where they're from, family vacation that they took. We want descriptions. We want to know their likes, their dislikes, their dreams, their goals, and their wants. This is also a great opportunity for you to explain to students the importance of knowing their character objectives. What does your character want? What are they trying to achieve? What are they trying and reaching for? There's something. That's a natural human thing, is to have wants and needs. And that 10-minute snapshot into their DI is probably, definitely honing in on those wants and needs. So now with this character analysis project, you get to dig even deeper and tell us the backstory, all the information that's not in the text or on your script. This is your opportunity to truly interpret and to design and create who this person is. Where do they live? What does their house look like? If a big portion of the DI, they're sitting in their living room on the sofa and they have a bunch of pillows that they make reference to, or even if they don't make reference to, what does their physical space look like? Design that for us. Show us what it looks like. Find pictures, do a graphic design, do a shoebox design, but let us know and see what their home looks like, or their space, wherever possibly the DI is taking place, or multiple places that have some significance to this character. Again, we are sometimes putting students in these adult situations and they may not have the backstory or understand the time period or what was happening during that period. If it's a piece from the 60s and it's someone talking about, Jim Crow laws and how it felt to drink from a colored water fountain, by golly, go interview and talk to someone who did that in the 60s, who actually can tell you what that felt and looked like to go and have to drink from that colored water fountain, by golly. Find individuals, if possible, not always possible, of course, depending on your time period and what you're looking for, but find folks you can talk to. That's what you want to tell your students. Of course, we're going to do it in a safe way. We're going to do it in a way that's not going to cause any, disruption in the world or what have you. And we're going to be very safe about it. But how can you reach out to people? And that is one of the pluses in our new virtual world is, I can go in and Zoom with my great aunt who lives in LA, and I'm here in Kansas City, and we can have wonderful conversation and dialogue and see each other. So encourage students to find, if at all possible, depending again, yes, on their content and what kind of piece it is, but talk to someone or find someone's story that is similar to the story you're telling through your DI. Find a TED Talk, find a autobiography, find a documentary, find something if you can't directly like interview someone that understands what this character is going through. Surveys. I have a student who is doing a DI about being a teacher in a classroom full of students who look very different than him. And they talk very different than him. And their experiences from their life right now is very different than the teacher's experiences were. Well, what if that student, as a part of their character analysis, interviewed or sent out a survey link for all of their teachers to fill out? What did it feel like being a new teacher? What did it feel like going into a classroom full of students that possibly look different than you? Or what does it feel like every day when you go home after a long day at school? How do you de-stress? Like getting into the minds of people who understand a little bit or who have walked in the shoes of your character will help students understand it. Better understanding of who they're playing, of what the situation is, a better DI in the long run. Another option is, you know what? Now you're the expert on whatever the subject matter that your character is dealing with is. You're now the expert. So you're going to come to class one day, the class period belongs to you and you're in control, you're in charge. Give us a lecture, give us some things to really think about. Maybe you're going to do a mini debate with the class, a Socratic seminar, group discussion, play a Kahoot game, but all of this centers around the subject matter that your character is dealing with. Another fun idea is, as your character, create a social media post or a whole social media account. Of course, we want, again, this to be very educationally bound. We want this to be safe. We want this to be appropriate. But especially if this character is very different than your own, that's an interesting kind of experiment. How would my character post on social media? What kinds of sites would my character be interested in? Of course, all clean, all school related, but it could allow students to really, of course, get a glimpse, present day sense of their character. And walk a mile or a day as my character. And that goes along with dressing the part of your character, but what would a day in the life of my character really look and feel like? If I got up in the morning and I journaled, I'm journaling as my character. When I fix my breakfast, what would my character fix for breakfast? How would my character wait for the bus in the morning? Like becoming the character is super important to really help students learn to develop their characterization. So now I am going to share some examples with you, and I hope some of these examples help. All right, Santiago, thanks for joining us. And I appreciate you giving your time to kind of tell your story and to let me know what's going on. So congratulations. I see that you were accepted to Harvard.
Yes, thank
Why
you.
is that such a big deal?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just being able to apply to Harvard, especially as a person of color, is something that not a lot of people know of or not a lot of people hear of. And I feel like as a person of color, it's very important for me to provide that representation for um, everyone that's a minority in the United States. And me being accepted to Harvard, it's kind of like surreal, not only for me, but also for other people in my community that are like kind of judgmental and saying, "You really got accepted into Harvard?" And just me showing them, like, yes, I'm going to Harvard.
So you believe people's expectation is that that would never be something that you'd be able to attain, being able to be accepted to Harvard. Can you be specific and tell me why?
Yeah, so I think particularly if we're talking about the societal privileges that come with being a person of color, which is not really many. There's more societal privileges when it comes to being a white male in specific. If we're talking when it comes to being a Harvard attendee, so I feel like just me being a person of color, um, and although I am white passing, and although I am um, a male as well, it's very weird, especially for people in my community, to be like, that little brown boy made it to made it to Harvard, and it's just, adding that, yes, I did, to everyone's perspectives.
That's nice. And congratulations. I know it probably gives you a sense of pride and gratitude and all the other good feels when you get to say, yeah, that's me. That's me.
Absolutely.
How does your family feel about this? And does your family accept the fact that you're doing things? Are they happy for you? Are they excited? Are they nervous?
Yeah, so they're absolutely happy for me. They really want to see me prosper. I mean, like every other family would. But for them, it's kind of more of like, okay, my son made it to a big school. They're obviously not that really invested into the educational system here in America, seeing as I'm their first son to ever go to college. Um, they kind of just like, what does that mean? What, you got accepted to Harvard? What does that mean? So it's kind of just being able to sit down and explain to them, like, hey, Harvard, I got accepted into the Harvard, and they kind of just look at me as like, what's Harvard? So it's kind of just me just showing them the expectations that were set out to me by today's society for being a brown boy, and showing them that, hey, I exceeded them, and explain to them how I exceeded them, and Harvard just being one of the expectations that I expect to exceed in my further in my future.
Good, good. And I know that's so symbolic of so many other things. Yes, getting into this elite, Ivy League school, that's a big deal. That's amazing. But it's so symbolic of you being able to step across this little barrier that people imagine you would never be able to cross over. What do you tell the other younger self or younger brown boy who is sitting in a classroom right now thinking, I am always feeling like I can't do enough, be enough, do it well enough. I'm never pleasing my teacher. I don't feel like I'm going to make it. What words of wisdom would you give that young boy?
I think a person's number one supporter should always be themselves, because at the end of the day, everyone is going to tell you, yes, you can do it, yes, you can do it, but the person that's actually going to drive you to do it is yourself. And I feel like you, as long as you have that mentality that, hey, I'm going to get out of this community, I'm going to do something better with my life, you're absolutely going to reach it. And being those societal barriers that we have to cross sometimes as minorities, it's very hard to keep your mentality into that kind of set mindset, I guess you can say. But I feel like once you know your self worth and once you know what you want, it's just going to be a straight road ahead. For me, I knew I wanted to go to Harvard, and I knew I wanted to prove everyone wrong, my teachers, my cousins that didn't believe in me, just everybody. I wanted to prove everyone wrong. And when I got accepted into Harvard, it was kind of like, oh my God, if he did that, I can do that too. And it's just realizing that if you really put your mind into something and you really want to achieve something that not a lot of people achieve in your community, you just have to set your path straight to that, and you'll be set and focus on school. School is super important.
Good job, Christian. So you've really captivated and captured Santiago as a character. Do you feel like he's closely connected to you? So now I'm talking to you, Christian. You're coming out of Santiago. Do you feel like you connect with this character? Do you feel like, hey, we could sit down and have a conversation and we'd be like on the same page, we'd be friends? Or do you feel like this is someone not related to Christian?
Yeah, so I think he's actually very related to me, just because I feel like when I talked about my parent, like Santiago's parents, not knowing what the American education system was, that's very much how my lifestyle and my parents are, as well as just like the little expectations that society provides for us. Um, Recently, I won a scholarship, and it was not expected for me to win that scholarship just because of my GPA, of me not being like exceeding in certain things and curriculums here at school. But I went ahead and showed everyone like this
Good,
scholarship is mine.
good,
And
good.
it was just when I got the scholarship, it was just like, oh my god, like yes, I can do it.
Good. So every time you're playing Santiago, do you feel like he's your voice for you? Like you're living vicariously through Santiago. He's saying the words that you're feeling. Do you feel that way?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Santiago, I feel like he's also a character that is he knows what he wants and he knows how to do it. And that's definitely me. That's definitely who I know what I want in my future. I know what college I'm gonna go to, what colleges I want to look at, just in case. Is just very, very yes. He's very much my voice.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm not the expert per se. I just love, love, love everything about competitive speech and debate. And I really, really, really love dramatic interpretation. So thank you for giving me some of your time to express some of my tips and tricks of DI. For all of those new coaches out there, good luck. Don't forget the importance of this whole activity is to teach our students the power of using their voices for change. And good luck to all of you in all of your future endeavors. Thank you.